Hello everybody, it's the Historical Gamer once again, and today we're returning to War in the Pacific, Admirals Edition, our Let's Play series against XTRG. It is March 21st of 1942, and it is getting late in the offensive period for Japan. I think they only have 10 days left until their amphibious bonuses or landing bonuses go away. So it would behoove the Japanese to make some moves sooner rather than later. They get an unloading bonus until the end of the 4th month of the war, which I think is technically March. So I believe we should see the Japanese get huge penalties in terms of unloading troops as of April 1st. But we'll see what happens here. Meanwhile, we're getting a little bit of activity here, some submarines firing torpedoes and the like. You can see there an AK just took a torpedo off the coast of New Zealand from a Japanese sub, the I-9. Multiple torpedoes hitting there. Meanwhile, the destroyer Dale is attempting to attack. We'll see what happens here. Let's just fast forward through it and see. 2 hits on the sub, no real damage. 2 torpedo hits on the cargo ship City of Elwood, heavy damage. Just a cargo ship carrying probably fuel or supplies, so no real big loss there. It does sink, as you can see. Meanwhile, Japanese anti-submarine patrols going hard at our subs that are entering the Solomon Sea and heading toward New Britain. We are trying to flood the area with submarines to try and go after Japanese shipping that might be in the area with all of these fast transport landings that are occurring throughout the region. Who names a ship Dale? The United States Navy. Damn straight, Kyle and XZ. The USS Hank Hill. All right, more depth charging against the Permit. No hits there, so that's good. I have not watched this replay. I have not issued any orders or anything like that, so this is literally my first look at it. I've been told some stuff happens, which sounds perhaps more interesting than I have any idea to know how interesting it will be, but we'll find out soon enough. We're now into the day phase. More Japanese submarines off the U.S. coast. A hit but no explosion. Eat it! Ha! I got way too excited for that. Meanwhile, our float plate tender off the coast of Australia is going to go down. An AVP just took a torpedo, and it sinks. God damn it. I have a bunch of sub-patrols working off that coast. I would have thought they would have suppressed those guys, but I guess not. It's okay, like a G-Man. I can convert ships to AVPs or AVDs, so I think we'll be fine. All right, so we're into the air operation phases in the AM. We've got a lot of float planes and a lot of patrols going on. Did I just see... Did we see a Lily flying over Hobart? It looked like there was a... Or maybe that was something flying out of Hobart? It looked like there was something, some sort of recon going over Hobart, which is where our carriers are, so that would be mildly concerning. But it might have been my own recon, I suppose. Okay, so Sonias are attacking Bataan. More Sonias are attacking Bataan. More Sonias, so it's a very fragmented Japanese raid on Bataan here. Not good coordination at all. Doesn't really matter. We don't have any fighters that can intercept or anything like that. All right, some Japanese recon over Rangoon. So far, no airstrikes over Rangoon. We're moving into the air operation phase, though, so we'll see if that changes at all. Not a ton going on so far, anyway. It's a relatively quiet turn. We're going into the airstrikes phase of the PM phase. More recon over Pegu, over Port Moresby. It's kind of hard to follow some of the recon that's ongoing, so we may have uncovered some stuff in recon that makes this a more interesting turn than what we've seen so far, but not a very interesting turn from a combat replay perspective so far. It looks like another bombardment at Moresby. Japanese cruisers coming in here. So maybe we'll get a shock attack as well by the Japanese troops there. A lot of non-combatants destroyed there, although no real impact of the defenders who are combatants. 288 casualties, 5 guns lost, 1 gun destroyed. and then some runway hits and airbase hits. 4 heavy cruisers bombarding. Narwhal firing torpedoes at a Yamasiya cruiser mine layer. A hit but no explosion. Gotta love that goddamn Mark 14. By the way, Imperator Thrawn, also thank you for the resub from a little bit ago. 4 months for you. He's got you by a month, Sean Mack. Japanese deliberate attack at Moresby. Maybe this is why it's meaningful. Maybe Moresby falls here. I guess we'll find out in a minute. Yep, they capture Port Moresby. Well, that's not great. So Port Moresby falls to the Japanese. We knew it was coming eventually, but they held out longer than I thought they would. 4-1 on assault odds. Japanese lose 204 men, 4 squads destroyed. We lose 88 squads destroyed, 6 disabled, 148 non-combatants lost. 24 guns, 23 vehicles, 6 units retreating, 1 unit was destroyed. We might be able to fly some Catalinas into Australia to see if we can evacuate the better part of the infantry on those units. We'll see about doing that. The fact that they didn't destroy the units, though, and they just drove them back is pretty reassuring. Obviously they're going to be ravaged units, but great if we can salvage parts of them. Almost no ships sunk by Mark 14s. I'm very bad with using my torpedoes as well, Co. So that's probably, like, other players like Dadman know the mechanics of the game much better to use their torpedoes better. But we'll see. Load the Mark 14 makers into a torpedo tube and fire. Yeah, Or just flood the tubes and leave them there. Who wants to let them swim out? So that wasn't as... I mean, the fall of Moresby is a big deal, definitely. I mean, I did have 1 Mark 14 go into the side of an enemy cruiser. It didn't sink it, but that happened. So let's see. Let's load up here and see what's going on. All right, so let's go take a look over near Fiji. I don't see anything. There's a carrier at Tulagi, maybe. We've got a report of an enemy carrier moving southeast at Tulagi. So maybe his carrier task forces are in the area. They could be moving southeast, which would put them on a line to move toward Fiji. If it is indeed their target. Port Moresby is in serious disrepair. The airfield damage is 100. The port damage is 70. They shouldn't be flying out of there anytime soon. He'll likely need to ship additional engineers because I don't think his engineer regiment that he brought with him isn't in very good shape either. But trying to move him over the pass would be a very slow process. Let's take a look at the units that were driven back. So actually, there's the 45th Indian Brigade still has 58 infantry squads that are ready for combat and 26 that are disabled. So I think it would behoove us. I mean, I think if we fly with Catalinas and transports, we can probably evacuate all the support troops. We can probably evacuate all the engineers. I think the 3-inch mortars are small enough. The combat engineers, the Vickers section, the Bren section. We should be able to get everything out of this unit minus the motorized support. The Port Moresby Brigade, meanwhile, 30 Australian CMF infantry sections that we would definitely want to get out. We probably can't get out like the 3.7-inch mountain gun or the 18-pounder guns or the engineer vehicles, which there are none actually. So we can probably pull a fair amount of these guys out of there using CATs or transports. We do have some Empires up here. Can we pick up troops? Let's see. Set destination here. They're on the coast, so float planes should be able to get there. And then... No, I don't want a troop transport. I want a troop pickup. And then, I don't know, whoever we see we want to pick up here. It's going to be a slow process, but you can see here 53rd Australian Battalion has 12 CM. I really want to focus on the units that have CMF infantry sections. Even if the units are shattered, I might be able to bring them back to Australia, disband the units, and then put those units into pool. Then we could potentially use those infantry sections to fill out other units. And there are still some supplies with multiple units here, so they won't just poof into nothingness right away. So I think we'll do that. The Empires, who should we go for? Do we want to go for the 53rd? The 53rd is the lightest unit in terms of weight. They're also all disabled. So we could bring the 53rd back. Probably only take a few days to get them out. Their supply situation is also among the worst. The engineers would be nice to get the engineers out as well. Although they've got a little bit of heavier stuff. Would that nearby bombardment force from the last turn attack the units? I mean, they could bombard these troops, if that's what you're asking. I'm guessing they expended almost all the ammunition they had in the heavy cruisers. They're probably going to have to fall back to some of these islands, or maybe he's stashed an AKE or something like that to replenish. Okay, so I love the fact that like the Lark Battalion is in such a bad place here. They're just going to wither away and die, or get attacked and die. But by being in Rabaul, I've got a direct line of sight into the port, so that's nice for now anyway. All right, so the Empire's over up here. We've got one Catalina here. Let's move these 10 Catalinas. I was supplying Ambon. How's the supply situation there? So we're not really getting a better supply situation. We could also try and pull the Sparrow Battalion out of Ambon. Although we're never going to be able to form the 8th Australian Division because the Lark Battalion at Rabaul is going to prevent us from doing that. We also would have to remake the 27th and 22nd Australian Brigades, which are lost in Singapore, which are the core of that division anyway. So we'll have to think about that. Nothing that can hit effectively. The B-17s at Charterstown are too far away from Rabaul to bomb. They're 25 hexes out. And the B-17's range are, I don't know if I said B-17s, but their range is 22 on the B-17Ds, which are the older ones, and 20 and 18 on the Es. And the other problem is that it's not a size, I think, 6 airfield, which I think is required, or 7 airfield, which is required for these guys to fly effectively. Can I pull here? 16 is too far. How far is, what if I move the transports up here and replace the Catalinas here? 15. So those Catalinas can do that. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to move these Sky trains to Darwin. Once they get to Darwin, they're going to do... actually, can they do troop transport to Ambon since it has an airfield? Other restricted troops? Can we supply? Yeah, we can. We can also probably pick up troops from Ambon. So we can pick up the Sparrow Battalion with our C-47s, but for the moment I want to try and supply troops there. I wonder if these Sky trains are better at transport than Catalinas. I got to imagine they can carry more. Like maybe 4 Sky trains carries more supply than 10 Catalinas. I hope so anyway. All right, so we're going to fly these Catalinas back south here to Cairns. And then we're going to pick up troops from Cairns with the Catalinas, 10 of them. It doesn't give me the pick up troops option. But, all right. So who do we, again, who's the right? I'm thinking it's the 53rd. Not because, I mean, the unit that has the most troops to pull back is the 45th Indian Brigade, but they also have 107 supplies left, and they retreated into, I'm assuming, jungle terrain, swamp terrain, so it would take the Japanese a bunch of days to get there. I think it's unlikely the Japanese are going to fly cap over that, where we're trying to pull troops out from. So I think if we start with the 53rd, that might be the right approach. In terms of load cost, they're the second lowest. The D Company of New Guinea Rifles, you know, we could form the... No, we're still 22 days and 27 days from these companies reforming. And then the Port Moresby Brigade also needs to get out to try and form that unit. So I think we'll focus on the 53rd for now and their CMF infantry units, trying to get them out. So 11 hexes is within normal radius as well, so that should give us better payload capacity. We're going to move these wearaways out, though, to lessen the aviation requirements of the base. So move them down to Townsville, I think. Meanwhile, I kind of expect the Japanese to go for Horn Island next. We've got a detachment of defenders here, the Torres Strait Battalion, the 5th Royal Australian Coastal Artillery Unit here, 8 6-inch coastal guns sitting here on Horn Island, as well as some AIF infantry sections. It's not a huge force. They've only got 48 assault value, but those coastal guns may give them a little bit of a nasty surprise. I did look at Tulagi Neuhauser. I saw a single Japanese carrier there moving southeast. So again, that might mean he's going for Fiji. It's still a little bit far out for us to really be able to make that determination for sure. But it is definitely possible that's what he's aiming for. We have reinforced the Air Force at Fiji basically to its maximum strength. 8 units out of 8 if we're trying to maintain a high level of efficiency. If we go over our base cap, then we'll get penalties. But we did fly cap last turn. We had some P-40 Warhawks, which took a lot of fatigue last turn, set to 70% cap at 15,000 feet. These units are primarily set up in training regimens, but I will say that flying combat air patrol does help their air skills and does help their experience. Maybe not as fast as training improves their air skills, but it still helps the intent of the mission there is to train those guys up. And that's true for all of those units there. So the F4, F3s, we've got a bunch of guys there that gained some experience. The maybe not the Dauntlesses. They were set to naval attack. But the other F4, F3s, you can see here some green. It seems to skew a little bit higher on the more experienced pilots flying cap, giving them some perks. But you can see that we're gaining experience on all of those. You want to rush carriers to kill? Halsey must attack. That feels foolish, but let's charge deep into the heart of Japanese-controlled waters, and hopefully their G3M Nels on New Caledonia don't hit and sink anything, and then run smack dab into the Kitty Butai. That feels rash. I don't know. So we ran recon, but we don't have any indication of what was at Tana. We haven't identified anything at Tana. We did try and put a torpedo into the side, I think, of a cruiser mine layer in this general area with the KV something, maybe it was. But we don't have any recon on other Japanese shipping in the area. We massively upped our recon patrols here out of Nadi. So you can see here I set all of these guys to naval search pretty much. And we didn't really come up with anything, so I'm not sure. Halsey in a rash, you might have something there. All right, so let's replenish these guys. Well, these guys are already replenished, aren't they? 100% on everything. All right, those cruisers are at 100%. What about the other task force here? The Minneapolis is at 92, so we'll replenish it. I think it'll replenish from the tankers. We'll disband them into port. Then we've got this group here, which will replenish. Why does it say it's needed? It's needed for what? Okay. All right, so I think we used up almost all of the remaining, although we might have been actually unloading fuel into the port. No, we weren't. All right, so we used up almost all the remaining oil in these oilers here. So we had 14,000, or no, actually almost 20,000 fuel on these two oilers. I think we were slightly below 100% capacity, but all of our ships should now be at 100% fuel in these two task forces, Halsey and Spruance's task forces. The ships in port, I think, are pretty much all at 100% as well. So we did get the carriers fueled back up and ready for sea in all respects. And then the carriers are continuing to work on their repair status at the moment and try and get their systems damage down. It's pretty low. System damage of like 1 or 2 is really not going to have a major impact on the efficiency of the ships. But we did. The main reason I'm not setting sail yet is we'd probably leave the Van Hammerschack behind because her system damage is at 9, and the American cruisers are frankly just as good, if not better, at anti-aircraft fire. But the main reason we would delay putting to sea is the British Indomitable is 2 days away from getting back. Now, her systems is down to 2, so I'd have no problem sending her to sea right now. But the problem is if I try and change her out of pier side and bring her to active, there is like a 2-3 day delay to get the ship ready for sea again anyway. So I might as well just wait for the 2 days until the ship is ready, because it's going to be 2 or 3 days no matter what we do. So let's just get it repaired right rather than rush it back to sea. By that point in time, I'm assuming the Saratoga and the Yorktown and the other ships will be back to 100%. Also, what if we take a look? We still haven't drawn the Hurricane replacements. I think I have to send it to a bigger port with more supply, but we'll see. Use the Hermes as bait. I'd rather not, The Hermes may not be a great carrier, but it's still, its victory points are still 121. That's worth 4 heavy cruisers right there. So it'll continue on its way toward Fiji. It's a good 6 days away. So his intentions should be revealed by this point. By the time he, we either know what he's doing in Fiji, or by the time Hermes gets into danger, we'll know. We should, if he's really going for Fiji, I think we'll know in 2 days. Because in 2 days, if he's moving at moderate speed and preserving fuel, he might get to around here tomorrow, which is still going to be out of range of doing much. But then day 2 would bring him down here, and that would indicate very clearly, or here maybe, that would indicate very clearly he's making a move on Fiji. 3 days tops should reveal his intentions. If he doesn't show up at Fiji in the next 3 days, or the seas around it, we know he's doing something else. He could just be maintaining the carriers further north as well. He's indicated that he keeps sort of teasing me like, come out and play, where are your carriers, coming to the Coral Sea. So he may also just be trying to ambush me as well. We don't know for sure what his plans are there. I'm going to guess it'll take him a few days it'll take him weeks to get his troops down from Singapore anywhere near that area. So it's unlikely anybody's going to be coming from Singapore anytime soon. These transports just arrived. How's our detection here? Doesn't look like he has any detection over Sabang. So, a very small amount under 1 cargo ship. So he's really not doing much at all to try and detect our ships in port at Sabang. He's not detecting the 5th, 14th Punjabs either that are now well clear of Sabang. We're still probably going to keep them moving at full speed, just to keep them further away from Victoria Point. They're still technically within air attack range at the moment. Meanwhile, I didn't stop my battleships. They were looking at maybe doing a bombardment attack on on Port Blair. He hasn't detected them yet. I think we'll get to around here next turn. So if we're here or here, in theory, we'll be in torpedo range next turn. So I may have to consider pulling them back. He didn't make any attacks on Rangoon. I kind of thought maybe he would, but he didn't. Our fatigue is still manageable on our fighters that are running cap there. We're still unloading a bunch of supply at Rangoon, so we've unloaded another 20,000 plus supply this last turn. This cargo ship task force, which is not docked, is more than half unloaded. We've got another cargo ship task force down here, which is apparently docked, which doesn't seem to be unloading very efficiently. And they're unloading. They've got another 14,000 supply. So we've got another 24,000 supply in port right now. The RAF group finished unloading off the Cape St. Jacques. So we'll go ahead and pull these guys back out to Colombo to get them out of range of Japanese attack aircraft. So we'll race them back that way. I think they're still going at full speed. They are. Iman Brennan, thank you very much for the follow. FT.gov, thank you for the follow as well. Rangoon is now up to 92,000 supply in the port of Rangoon. Pagoo's at 15. The troops further south are working on digging in. I think they're all to level 1 fortifications anyway. All of their fatigue is below 10. Their disruption is 0. So these guys are doing okay, hanging out down here in the jungle to the south of Pagoo. Meanwhile, our troops in Pagoo that are trying to rest and recuperate, the BFF Brigade, still quite a few Burmese squads are disabled, so we'll see if they can get a little bit better. I think they're trending in the right direction. 17th Indian Division, I can't remember if they were at 48 last turn or not. They might be better off moving back to Rangoon, actually. If you have a massive amount of supply, they help recuperate more quickly. Okay. Why would I bombard Suva? Suva's mine. Suva's in our control, Southern. I'm not going to bombard my own troops. Speaking of Rangoon, we also have another 30,000 supply coming in here on light transports that are coming out of Colombo. So these guys will be arriving tomorrow. So hopefully we can start clearing the port out of shipping, because there's still there's way more shipping. Rangoon is very crowded right now. And that's not good, because if he does start attacking, there are a wealth of targets. Hopefully some of these guys start emptying out their holds. That'll free up some space for the 20,000, 30,000 tons of shipping about to round the head of the delta and enter port as well. So that's the situation there. Trying to see here. We had some destroyers arrive there, the Hotspur. How are our cruisers doing repair-wise? So we're still about 9 days away from the Gato being better, 5 days from the Exeter. So the Exeter will be ready for combat in 5 days. The Cape Town in 2. We do need to consider that an Indian Ocean strike by him is definitely possible. He could bring carriers into the Indian Ocean and try and raid our supply lines and raid our shipping. That's another reason I intend to slow down my transport of supply into Rangoon. Rangoon has way more supply than we need right now, and probably for another month. And still has enough supply to have that supply being directed and drawn into China. So if we ramp up the supply that much more, I don't think it really benefits us that much more. So it's probably sensible to slow down the process there. Meanwhile, we did get the 54th Corps into this town here. So we did arrive here at Suyong, so that's good news for us. He can't land anywhere with paratroopers along the Burma Road anymore without landing on top of troops, which is a very dicey proposition indeed. Meanwhile, we're still working on getting troops up to Ankang. We have troops. Some of these troops here somewhere are moving toward Ankang. I'm not sure which one. Yeah, some of these guys are going to be in the next hex tomorrow, so they'll be within 2 hexes of Ankang as of tomorrow. Meanwhile, this guy technically is already within 2 hexes, but he's moving over the mountains because he's not following the roads because he's stupid, and he's 8 miles into his journey. We also are moving troops up toward Kungcheng and then also Tian Sui via roads, trying to prevent him from being able to land paratroopers in our rear as well. These guys, I think, will make it to the next hex tomorrow, so they'll be within a hex of one of those objectives, and making their way up there. So we're working on it. We're working on fixing some of the problems in our rear. Meanwhile, his troops are starting to move on Quilin, so we can see that he's got 7 units here that are marching southwest toward Quilin. We are trying to get 2 of our more wrecked battalions or corps out of there. I think they'll be out of there tomorrow. Meanwhile, the 3 corps we have coming south have over 1,100 assault value. They'll be arriving tomorrow, so that's very good news for us. He won't attack because he's not crossing a river, so it won't be like an instant attack for him, which is good news as well. So that's also positive news for us. And we're still working on the fortifications here at Quilin. They're at level 3. They're unlikely to get to level 4 And the support levels need to be a bit higher, so we'd probably be well served to get some additional headquarters units into the base. So I'll look into doing that as well off screen. Convoy scouting out of Port-au-Prince for our subs. I would like to do that. Right now my subs are deployed in defense of Java, and they're also largely, there's several that are repairing up at Colombo. So I don't have subs in position, but I don't think Batan's going to fall soon. I think we probably still have a month of supply, even operating light air units out of there. So I think we're probably okay to do that, but it's going to be probably a week before I have any subs in the area. But yes, I would still like to do that, Southern. Ivan, the war is going. We lost Port Moresby today, so that's bad. In terms of political points, Japan has a 3,600 point lead at the moment, but that is to be expected. Again, they need right now they would basically need 27,000 points or score to win in 42, and that at the moment anyway feels a little unlikely. Ship sunk last turn. We lost 2. We lost the Valk, which was a Dutch aircraft tender, and we lost the City of Elwood, which is a cargo ship. Both to Japanese submarines. Meanwhile, if we kind of scan around here, I'm not sure what those guys are doing. I think I was going to do some transports, and I didn't. Raoul Island is working on becoming not a dot base. It's up to 46% completion on the airfield there, working toward that. Tungatapu, meanwhile, is working on a level 1 airfield. It's at 75%. Once it gets there, we'll start building up fortifications for those troops. Vavu with the Marines. We've got a regiment of Marines at Vavu. They're already at level 2 forts. They're working on level 2 airfields and level 3 ports, so that's going to be slow just because they're trying to do everything at once. Pago's at level 4 airfield, working on 5. It's halfway to level 4 port, which will probably stop at 4 because it's already 1 level overstacked, so the more you go overstacked, the slower it is. But it's also halfway toward level 4 fortifications. Suva is already to level 4 fortifications, so if he does land on Fiji, we're going to try and make it, a nightmare for him. We have 15,000 supplies, which is a good, healthy amount of supplies. We have a level 7 airfield, which is a great airfield. We've got level 3 ports, which is a solid port. The real risk on Fiji is the base at Nadi, which is more vulnerable. It does have level 3 forts. It's working on 4, but it's still going to be probably a week or 2 to get to 4. The airfield is only at 3. But the real weakness at Nadi is the troops there. We've got the 1st Australian Division, which has a good amount of assault value, but they're militias, which don't do a good job of inflicting damage. We've got the 7th Australian Brigade, likewise a good amount of troops, but they're militias again. So one thing I might do here is, even though it's got 366 assault value, I might bring that Australian Militia Brigade back and then swap in the 8th New Zealand Brigade, because these guys are regular infantry, NZ INF section 108. So I'm thinking they'll be better at defending. They've got a good amount of assault value. I'd like more American units here. I've only got 1 American infantry regiment and then a couple of American artillery battalions, but I also need to make sure that we defend Vavu and Pago and Tongatapu so that he can't just swing in behind us and cut Fiji off from supply. 15,000 co is enough for now. It has supply on the way. So we do have some supply on the way already. Replace the militias with something malicious. Haha. Can't replace them. Don't have enough in the pools for the moment. But I do have more supply on the way to Fiji. Where were those ships sunk with torpedoes anyway? Okay. Some tankers just arrived back in LA, so that's good. Okay. Meanwhile, in northern China, do we see anything interesting there? He might be bringing some reserves. Although it doesn't actually look like it. There's just one behind him. Not seeing any indication of movement in northern China, which is good. I don't want movement in northern China. I am looking at maybe bringing one unit around here to try and go after Nanning again, just if in case it's empty. China's supply situation. Well, Southern last turn, or 2 turns ago, China had 120,000 supply, which was up from 60,000 supply in January. So China has more than doubled its supply total throughout the whole theater in the last 2 months. I don't imagine the supply situation has changed meaningfully since then. Okay. Meanwhile, Chikikong is at level 4 forts. Once I get it to 5, I'm going to disperse more of those troops. These guys here are digging in. They're only at 2. I could use more engineers there. That's the underbelly there, although it's good defensive terrain. Well, we don't... I mean, 8 B-24s isn't going to do much. Or 6 B-24s isn't going to do much. They also don't have any replacements right now. So we're not building any B-24s. I think our replacements with aircraft start to change a little bit in a few days. In April, we start getting a little bit more aircraft. But for the moment, anyway, we don't have any LB-30 replacements. So using them for anything other than patrol or transport is probably foolish at this time. So, yeah. Meanwhile, you know, our B-17s in Australia are continuing to train on skip bombing. You can see here they're working on their low-level bombing skills here. None of them have good low-level bombing skills, but they're working on making them not terrible. I think the best is Allen, Second Lieutenant Allen, has the level 40 low-level bombing skill. You can see the bombing accuracy on a lot of these guys is crazy low, 10%. One of them has 29%, but everybody else is really bad. We have some bombers on Suva as well. We've got some B-26s. We've got 12 B-26s on Suva. The pilots aren't particularly good there on low-level bombing either. They're actually a little bit better, though. You've got 4 guys with skills above 40. Everybody's pretty much in the 30s, minus a handful of guys at the bottom of the list. And then we've got some A-20 Havocs. I thought they were Bostons. I don't know the difference between the Havoc and the Boston. And those guys, I think they've mostly been doing... Well, they haven't been training on low level, I guess. We also have some Dauntlesses. So I don't know if anybody's going to get better as I switch them to naval attack. You can see these guys are almost at 50 in terms of their naval bombing skills, so that's actually pretty good, despite the older version of the Dauntless, the SBD-1. Still carries a 1,000-pound bomb. Much shorter range, though, only 4. Would it be feasible to upgrade them to something better? Well, we don't even have it in the pool. The Helldiver is worse, I think. Meanwhile, we've got the SBD-3s on another group here. They're near 50 as well. Cornoth, thank you very much for the follow. So that's the situation, guys. I don't know if we're going to have a long stream today or not. I'll probably do more stuff off screen. We've spotted Japanese carriers, or at least one of them, at Tulagi. They might be moving southeast. It's also possible that they moved down the slot and just got to Tulagi this turn. And so they're moving southeast in the sense that they're moving to Tulagi. We've had some evidence that Tulagi is a refueling point of his. Or as you remember, I think, didn't we fight a naval battle at Tulagi with two Allied light cruisers? We lost one of them sunk. We damaged some Japanese destroyers. And I think we had recon that there were fleet oilers there. So that's why we struck out there. Maybe a month ago, maybe less. But so it could be a refueling point. He may have just been moving to Tulagi to refuel, and then he could move west on the Australian coast. That's definitely possible as well. If he does, We'll try and hit them with 40 B-17s at low level with bad crews, and maybe someone will make it through the fighter screen. I mean, that's still a lot of B-17s. We also have some Kitty Hawks in the Australian Air Force. We have some Wildebeests. We have almost 20 torpedo bombers, 20 biplane torpedo bombers here operating off the Australian coast. These guys fell back from Singapore. Could get some political points by withdrawing one of these guys early, but, you know, for now I'm not going to do it. I don't really have a ton of mines. We used most of those mines up. The Empires did get the order. They're pickup troops, 53rd Australian Battalion. Pistol, maybe. But the B-17 in the game, anyway, is good at skip bombing, so they may be large for it, but it does work. Let's see if we can't get these DC-2s. What's the DH? I don't want that. That thing looks crappy. So we've got 2 of these. Transfer to base. So we want to get up toward toward Darwin, I think. It's 46 away, 33 away, 28 away. Although there's no engineers there. Get these guys to Augusta, and then maybe from... So Augusta would be closer. I don't know if it would be close enough. It should be close enough. So we'll move him to Augusta, and then we'll move him as an intermediate step, and then we'll get him there. So we're going to get a couple more cargo ships up to Darwin. Meanwhile, if we do look at the Dutch East Indies, that's one other area that I've kind of been neglecting. The SE Borneo KNIL unit here only has 11 infantry squads left. Did we not pull any of them out? Also, are they marching somewhere? How about you don't do that? I have them marching towards Sampit. So these guys here, 14 infantry squads. It looks like we only pulled 2 more out this turn. I did move around my my air assets a bit. Come to think of it, I need to pull these units out. They're all just sitting doing nothing. I think I forgot about them last turn, but they had been ordered to pull troops out of Singapore. So we've got to get these guys out of there. Ideally back to Rangoon and other places. We can start flying these guys over the hump again to get more supplies into China as well. Yeah, the B-17 did skip bombing. Historically, I believe. Okay. These guys... I need more Kitty Hawks. Anyway. Alright, so what about the troops at Sabang? So we pulled out the Punjab Battalion. We got them out on transports. The SSV Brigade is at 180 load cost. We've got the rest of what's left of the brigade 1 hex away. They'll be arriving tomorrow. Meanwhile, the Loyal Battalion here completely arrived. 8 British infantry sections. 55 experience is pretty decent. I'm wondering if we don't try and get these guys up to Port Blair. What's their headquarters? The Burma Corps? We could also just try and disband them and get their squads in another unit. But I wonder if maybe getting them up to Port Blair and trying to... Because I'm sure he's going to try and land reinforcements on Port Blair to take the base. And we'd prefer that he don't do that. Meanwhile, the 223 RAF group is fully ashore at Rangoon, so its aviation support is massively, well, not massively, but slightly, I misread those two, but we have enough aviation support there. So that's good. What are the other units? Didn't we land something else? I don't know. Yeah, not sure. in any event, I know this has been a short stream, but I don't have a lot else to show off here. I think this is probably where the turn will wrap up. Total cover show. Thank you for the bits. Appreciate it, dude. Use these for more bombs to skip. Bye-bye. Yeah, we'll try and do that. Anyway, guys, that's going to be it for today's stream, I guess. I'll do the rest off screen. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know your thoughts always. And until next time, this is the Historical Gamer saying once again, thank you very much for watching, and I'm out.